Are you guilty of these 5 dipping mistakes? In today's episode, Adam and I are going to show you some of the biggest mistakes when it comes to a parallel bar dip, because it's a great exercise. It's known as the upper body squat for good reason, but it is also one of the most butchered exercises, at least for the upper body, in existence. So we're going to show you guys the top mistakes. Hopefully you learned something. So let's get into it. So the first biggest mistake when it comes to a dip is range of motion. Now I understand, depending on certain lifters' anthropometry, some people can't go that low, but if you're really able to go at a respectable depth, you should definitely take advantage of that, because you'll be gaining more mass in the process. So Adam's going to demonstrate now a partial dip, which is what most lifters actually do. They don't lock out. This is garbage. You're not going to get anywhere. What you want to do instead is you want to go up, lock the triceps. You're getting the tricep growth, getting that lockout strength, and you want to go until your upper arm is somewhat parallel to the floor. Some people could break parallel, some people could just go parallel. Either way is good, but you have to see what works for you. It's all individual at the end of the day. So you want to get that good range of motion. That's going to stretch the triceps out, stretch the pecs out, the front delts, and it's just the same thing as a squat in a sense. The lower you go on the squat for the most part, the more you're going to get out of it. It's very similar with the upper body squat known as the dip. If you go to parallel or slightly below, you're going to reap a lot of the benefits. So the second biggest mistake when it comes to a dip is excessive shrugging. So we don't want too much scapular elevation, because we don't want to develop or further facilitate any faulty recruitment movement patterns when we're doing the dip. The dip is not a trap exercise. We're doing this for the chest, the triceps, front delts. So Adam's going to demonstrate the wrong way. Notice how his traps are really touching his ears. And this is actually how it looks with a lot of YouTubers or just many lifters in the gym in general when they're doing the dips really heavy. Now I'm not saying that there's not going to be any shrugging at all when you're going heavy, but you want to minimize it. You want to try to bring that scapula down as low as possible when you're going as heavy as possible. So thirdly, another big mistake, especially when people perform the chest dip, is forward head posture at the bottom of the repetition and neck extension, at least excessive neck extension when they're reaching the top. So Adam's going to demonstrate right now. This becomes very apparent as a lot of lifters go heavier. See, they got the forward head posture, and they're using muscles in the back of the neck to really help, along with the traps, just like in tip number 2. So what we want to do instead is we want to keep a neutral head position. We want to try to maintain this as much as possible, especially when we're going heavy. Keep a nice and long neck, minimize the shrugging, and you want to look straight ahead of you. So fourthly, this may not sound like a big deal to a lot of lifters, but I'm personally not a big advocate of it. It's crossing the legs when doing the dip. So we don't want to cross the legs, at least without switching, because of the uneven weight distribution. So if you're switching legs each set, that's one thing. But if you're just going years and years, crossing it on the same side, we definitely don't want that. So I'm actually not a big fan of it at all. And what I prefer Adam do is have the legs slightly in front. He's going to dorsiflex the feet. And now he has a way more even weight distribution. The anterior core is more turned on, and it's a lot harder to cheat, and you don't have to worry about switching sides all the time. So last but not least, this tip is related a lot to the first tip, which is range of motion. A lot of lifters, they find that the dip really grows the chest, triceps, and shoulders, but then they start getting greedy and they start going a little bit too low. And I see this a lot in a lot of calisthenic athletes. So if your shoulders could handle it, then go ahead, but most people can't. So we don't want to put the shoulders in too much of a compromised position where we're way below parallel either, because in most cases we're not really going to get much out of it for the long term. You might get something short term, but most shoulders can't handle it. So we want to shoot for parallel or slightly below, and some people may not even be able to hit that, and they might even go a little bit above parallel. And even if they could, that's still a good enough reason to do the lift if they could do it pain-free. So those are all 5 mistakes to the dip, and now Adam is going to show you 3 reps from the front, 3 reps from the back of how to do the dip properly. So you go, there's no shrug, good range of motion, the feet are slightly in front, anterior core is on. He's going to show you 3 reps from the other side. Great range of motion, great stretch in the pecs and the triceps. That's how it's done. All right, so there you guys have it. Hope you learned something from this video. 5 of the top dipping mistakes. Let me know in the comment section below if you're guilty of any of these mistakes. And also understand that none of this is necessarily set in stone. This is just ideally what I'm looking for when I'm coaching the dip. I want the interior core on. I don't want too much swinging. I don't want too much scapular elevation. Just basic guidelines I'm looking for. So leave a comment, subscribe, go follow Adam on Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time.